Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning, khushamdeed, ji ayanu, goeiemorgen.
Pakhairagale, ni hao, chura shumme, washmale, ohaya, genzaimis, guten morgen. Hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifahal, hale shuma chatore, ahlan wasalan marhaba, puna, mucho, gracias, suavia, and a very amazing good morning to everybody who's tuned into PT1 and watching World this morning on a very sunny day. Ladies and gentlemen, it is hot outside, and since it's still summers, so I think that all we need to do is just keep ourselves hydrated. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, with me I have the Red Riding Hood, none other than Shiza Hashmi, and my name is Shazad Khan. Hello Shiza, how are you today?
I'm absolutely great, thank you for asking, and how are you?
Well, I feel great. I think I feel ecstatic. I feel superb, and it's just because of the fact that I go to bed on time, and then I wake up on time, and I think that everything's perfect.
Wow.
As far as you follow your routine and you are disciplined in your routine, I think that every other day is going to be superb, ladies and gentlemen. What about you?
I do agree with that, yes.
Okay, partially?
No, not partially, but yes, more or less, okay. But before this, Shazad, we were talking about a new personality trait that you have adapted in yourself, and you feel like your life has changed.
Yeah.
Let's share it with everyone out there.
Okay, so it's a little harsh for all those people who are out there and whom I'm actually doing it to. And I think that there's a reason why I'm doing it to you as well. So ladies and gentlemen, earlier I think that I used to be the kind of person that whoever actually wanted to throw his or her baggage onto me, I was very welcoming for that. And I was like, okay, you know, you need a little bit of consolation and things like that.
Okay.
But other than that, now I've come to a point where I've realized that it's not okay to be very nice every other time. I mean, you can be nice, that's perfect, but not every time. And I think that there needs to be a stop to that as well. And the person actually needs to know when to say no as well. Because these days, what I've seen is that when you mature up, you know, your friends mature up, gradually your friends actually start asking for things which are not really feasible to fit into your discipline, because nobody now, if I am going to step out of my routine, it's going to disturb my entire day, and I do not want to disturb my day because of the fact that one of my friends said that, you know, come over to my place at 1 at night. I cannot do that, so I'm sorry. So if you're going to think that I'm a bad person, think about that, but I think that I'm more dedicated towards my work, and that's what everybody should do.
No, that's absolutely great. But for everyone out there, let me just
Don't judge me on
reconstruct
this.
his sentence
Yeah.
before you start judging. That's what I was going to do. So it is absolutely first, you know, it's absolutely important to be kind and to be humble and everything, you know, to be nice to people around you. But what Shazad means to say is there definitely has to be a boundary so that people cannot take advantage of you for no reason. And that is absolutely important as well. I mean, you really have to be careful in choosing the people that you let affect you.
Exactly.
Right?
And ladies and gentlemen, whenever we talk about humble and being modest, I think that this is one of the traits which everybody should have. And I think that these are the traits which I've witnessed in pretty much every other successful human being. And by being humble, it does not really mean that you kind of do not value yourself to the level or to the extent of how you think about your own self as well. I think that what I'm trying to convey over here is being humble to other people is different, but knowing your self-worth is something which is very important, and I think that people are missing on that.
Right, Shazad, again, I agree with you. But since we are speaking about being humble, ladies and gentlemen, this guy is never going to say it out loud, so I'm going to say it for him, mashallah, because of his amazing work, because of him being this, the only anchor in Pakistan, actually, the only host that is super energetic and super amazing. He has been published in the last week in about 4 to 5 magazines and newspapers. His work has been recognized. That is, mashallah, mashallah, so amazing.
So I think I'm going to give a shout out to Paparazzi magazine as well, Capital Daily, Mango Bars, and all of those people who've actually kind of rectified, in fact, not even rectified, mentioned the kind of work that I've done, but that's great. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of people who are doing some great work.
Oh yes, before that, I know we're directing towards, you know, what we're talking about today. So I have a question related to that. So whenever you go, you know, for a vacation or any place new, what is that one thing that remains with you? I mean, in terms of memories and whatnot. Like for me, I'll tell you, it is definitely the architecture of the place. I feel like that embodies the whole essence, the culture and the heritage of the place, right?
Exactly, and I think that you've said it very rightly as well. And Shizat, since, you know, England is just like a village to me, because I have to go every 6 months. So every time, you know, when I think about places where I've been to, I think that the first thing which comes around is that all of those surroundings which I am in. And I think that, you know, whenever you go to different places, you get to learn about their culture, their civilization, by just looking at the kind of architecture they have built on. And I think that, ladies and gentlemen, that architecture from even the past decades has quite a lot to share with all of us in terms of learning. But today, ladies and gentlemen, we're actually going to be in conversation with two most amazing architects over here in Pakistan who actually represent the International Architects Pakistan Institute as well. And Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen, happen to be one of the founder member for Arcasia. Arcasia is a 21-country, I think, collaboration which works on development, which works on education. They work on different areas. And today they're here because on the 5th and the 6th of September, they're hosting a conference, and it will be hosted in Comsats University. People from all over the globe, architects from all over the globe are actually going to fly in, and they're going to talk about urbanization. They're going to talk about how urbanization needs to take place and how people need to migrate back to where they belong.
Right. So, Shahzad, before you give everything away, ladies and gentlemen, our super amazing coordinator slash assistant producer slash researcher has made a report for all of you to understand what this is about and the importance or the integral part that architecture plays in, in the remembrance, let's say, of any country's culture, as we already mentioned. Let's take a look at this, and when we come back, we will be in conversation with our guests over here.
Let's do it. Good morning.
Architecture is the art and science of designing buildings and other physical structures. A wider definition often includes the design of the total built environment from the macro level of town planning, urban designing, and landscape architecture to the micro level of construction details and sometimes furniture. The term architecture is also used for the profession of providing architectural services. Islamic architecture is one of the world's most celebrated building traditions, known for its radiant colors, rich patterns, and symmetrical silhouettes. The distinctive approach has been popular in the Muslim world since the 7th century. Here's the list of iconic buildings of Pakistan. Mohatta Palace, Pakistan. The combination of pink stone from Jodhpur and yellow stone from Ghizri makes Mohatta Palace one of the most unique buildings of Karachi. Mohatta Palace is also one of the oldest buildings of the city. The aesthetic style of Indo-Pak revival architecture was built by Shiv Ratan Chandratan Mohatta, a Rajasthani businessman, in 1927. After partition, Quaid-e-Azam's sister Fatima Jinnah moved here, and in 1995, it was converted into a museum by the government of Sindh. Badshahi Mosque, Pakistan. The historical mosque was built by Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb in 1673 in Lahore. It is the landmark of Lahore, which attracts the tourists for its Mughal architecture. Ferrer Hall, Karachi. Considered as one of the most iconic buildings of Karachi, Ferrer Hall dates from the early British colonial era in Sindh. Completed in 1865, Ferrer Hall was originally intended to serve as Karachi's town hall and now serves as space for cultural and social activities. Faisal Mosque, Islamabad. Faisal Mosque of Islamabad was completed in 1986 and is one of the most beautiful and national mosques of Pakistan. The construction of the mosque started in 1966 when King Faisal of Saudi Arabia supported the Pakistani government's initiative to build a national mosque. The mosque was designed by Turkish architect Vedat Daloke. Pakistan Monument, Islamabad. The construction of Pakistan Monument started in 2004 and it took 3 years to be completed. This monument is a symbolic representation of 4 provinces of the country. The National Monument is located in Shakarpaniya. The structure comprises of 4 metals that are embellished with murals. Quaid's Mausoleum, Karachi. The Mausoleum of the founder of Pakistan is without any doubts the most aesthetic architecture of the country. Mazar-e-Quaid is the last resting place of Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, situated in Karachi, and a true iconic representation of the City of Light. The mausoleum, made of white marbles, was designed by famous architect Yahya Merchant. Minar-e-Pakistan, Lahore. Minar-e-Pakistan is the most famous public monument of Pakistan, located in Iqbal Park, Lahore. The construction of Minar-e-Pakistan started in 1960 and took 8 years to be completed. The Minar has a significant historical background as the Pakistan Resolution was passed at this place in 1940. The tower was designed by an architect from Dagestan, Nasreen Murad Khan. Habib Bank Plaza, Karachi. Habib Bank Plaza, once the tallest building of Pakistan, was established in 1963. The fine architecture of the building was designed by a famous international architect, Leo Daly. Aga Khan University and Hospital, Pakistan. The Aga Khan University Hospital is another beautiful building of Pakistan. The building that heals is designed by Payet Associates. The building was completed in 1985 and it is a marvel of traditional Indo-Persian and Mughal architecture. St. Patrick Cathedral, Pakistan. St. Patrick Cathedral is one of the most prominent churches in Pakistan. It's located near Karachi's historical Empress Market. The cathedral is built in Gothic revival architecture. It has the capacity to accommodate at least 1,500 worshippers at the same time. The design of the cathedral was conceived by the architect, Father Karl Wagner, and the construction was supervised by the lay brothers George Kluwer and Hermann Lau.
What a fantastic report that was,
Absolutely.
Honey. And Honey, ladies and gentlemen, is actually the name of the researcher who finally decided to make
Hasnain.
reports for our show too, as well. Stan, great job. And Emma, thank you very much for the voiceover as well. Finally, you've given us a few buildings and the names of the buildings and a brief history about them as well. And I think that it's going to be it's going to play a very important role for all of those kids out there who are actually watching the show today.
Absolutely.
And it's because of the fact that we really need to learn what Pakistan possesses. And ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan is definitely land to some beautiful and amazing places, thanks to all of those
Absolutely.
architects who've actually made and given in quite a lot. Yeah, go
All
ahead.
right, so without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be introducing this apt panel of guests over here who
Yep.
both happen to be architects and have both contributed a lot to Pakistan and are working across the borders as well.
Exactly.
So let's dig into the conversation.
Yeah, all right, ladies and gentlemen, so on my right-hand side. Okay, so let me tell you. So we've been in conversation with doctors, psychiatrists, engineers and whatnot, but I
Yeah.
believe that architects are actually very happy-go people. You know, the kind of moods they have is very, you're very jolly people. You're very comfortable to talk with them too as well. So without any further ado, this gentleman has been over here on the show too as well, I think 2 years ago. And now, ladies and gentlemen, he was the president of Arcasia too as well. He represents the IAP, which is the International Architects Pakistan's Institute as well. But then at the same time, I think that these are the people who are visionaries, because Pakistan was one of the founding members for Arcasia too as well. Now they've grown up to 21 countries, member countries as well. So I think that there's quite a lot of hard work which has been put in by this gentleman as well. He's none other than Jahangir Khan Sherpao Saab as well. He's an architect. He's got a long introduction. I don't think I can do justice to that within 1 hour. But Assalamu alaikum, sir. Good morning. How are you?
Assalamualaikum ji. कैसे हैं आप?
Well,
खैरियत से हैं?
I'm absolutely perfect. Thank you very much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you.
It's wonderful to be here.
Thank you very much, sir. And last but not the least, ladies and gentlemen, so this gentleman actually walked up to me while I was working out, and he was working out in the gym too as well, and he told me that, you know, we're doing this conference and we really want to be on your show. And I was like, wow, that's a great idea,
Okay.
because it's for Pakistan. We are for Pakistan, they are for Pakistan. So wherever initiatives of such sort meet, I think that great things come out as well. Ladies and gentlemen, he's an architect himself. He's a smart guy. He's none other than Mr. Fawad Suhail Abbasi. Hello, assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you
very,
very
very
much for
kind of
joining
you to
us.
have us here. I think it's a great opportunity to be talking to you and talking to everyone around Pakistan.
It's
Thank you very much for
absolutely
doing
our
that. It's
pleasure.
wonderful to have you. So, sir, let's get started. Let us know, our viewers, about Arcasia first of all, and then we'll talk about modern cities and how to develop on that.
Yeah.
Arcasia is an organization of 21 countries. It's Architects Regional Council Asia. It's a regional organization representing Asian architects. And Pakistan is the westernmost country in Arcasia. The easternmost would be Japan and Korea, and the northernmost being Mongolia and China, and the southernmost being Indonesia. So this is pretty much all of Asia put together. And Pakistan has been one of the founder members of Arcasia when it was just 5 or 6 countries, and it has grown since then. I have served as the president of the Institute of Architects Pakistan earlier for 3 years, and then after that I served as a vice president for Zone A, which is India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, and Sri
Wow.
Lanka. And then after that I was elected to become the president of Arcasia, which was a very big honor for me and for Pakistan as well. And what we did in that time was we took the ball and ran with it and said the whole world is coming to Asia. So why don't we define the rules? And so we said, let's engage the world.
Okay.
And that is what my presidency of 2 years.
And you were the third elected president
I was
for
the,
Arcasia.
I was the third Pakistani president of Arcasia.
Wow, that's just great. Wonderful it is. But let's move on to Fawad Saab over here. So Fawad Saab, you know, I have a lot of friends who are architects as well, and they're as young as you are as well. And I've seen them struggling quite a lot as well. How did you end up in Arcasia?
And I have a long history. Being second generation, my father is a very senior architect from Pakistan.
Okay.
So I don't think there was anything else I wanted to do. But again, I think what I saw in my father, which I sort of, when I had other mentors like Jahangir Saab, you know, a lot of others who mentored me, because I think with the profession, you have to make sure that there's a professional body of architects that represents and that you represent around the world.
Yep.
So I got involved with the Institute of Architects Pakistan, which currently I'm the vice president, and I've served as a chairman of the Islamabad chapter of IAP also. And I've been on the Arcasia as well. I was the first, the founding chairman of the Arcasia Committee of Young Architects.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that's a huge thing for me. Serve on the International Union of Architects also as their. So it was the fact that I got into the profession, I started designing, and that was something that's our bread, really, the bread earner of the house. You need to work as well. I mean, you have to do enough work to show what you want to do in your life. But simultaneously, the Institute of Architects Pakistan, which is our professional body, I represented that, and I've been very involved with it. And the Institute of Architects Pakistan is what has been representing Pakistan around the world.
Okay, well, that's
All
great and
right.
fabulous.
All right, so still being on Arcasia, I want you guys to answer it since you are the experts over here. When we're looking at the famous architecture of Pakistan, I mean, that is mostly belonging to the British Raj or the Mughal era, or before that, there are very few places that we can pinpoint that Pakistan is self-made, which is of course beautiful, yes. But being in Arcasia and interacting with all the other countries in the same region, what do you feel like we need to learn, or where do you feel like we're lacking in terms of developing our architecture in that way?
I think there's a lot of, the learning takes place all the time.
Of course.
And I think as opposed to our neighbors even, what Pakistan falls behind in is we don't know how to market ourselves.
Oh,
Yeah.
I agree with that, to be honest.
I think
Yes.
we need to market Pakistan better. We need to sell Pakistan better. And I think in today's day and world, this is something that we're doing by having this conference here at this time and place. 15 countries are going to come and represent
amazing.
Oh, it's great.
the world. Asia will be here, Africa will be here, Middle East will be here, Europe will be here, and Australia will be here, and the United States will be represented by Skype. And so these are things that within our profession, each one of us, if we try and put Pakistan on the map, I think that is the answer.
I think that's great too as well. And ladies and gentlemen, with with CPEC and with a lot of development taking place within Pakistan, I think that this is the right time to hit the nail on the head as well. But other than that, sir, this time around, the first ever conference, ladies and gentlemen, actually took place in Cairo, Egypt in Feb 2019.
Wow.
This is going to be the second season as well, or the second session. And this time around, they're actually talking about capital cities, master plans, and new cities as well. And since we are over here in Islamabad, I think that Islamabad, ladies and gentlemen, happens to be the second best capital in the world. And there's a reason behind it, and it's because of the fact that it was planned properly.
Yes,
And but when we talk about master cities or capital cities or having master's plan, what are master plans? What are we actually referring to when we are going to be a part of that conference? What are we going to learn?
Okay.
Master plans work at two levels. One is the city master plan, one is a regional master plan. So I think we can talk about both. Let's talk about the city
let's
master
talk
plan
about
first.
it.
Okay.
Islamabad is a very young city. Islamabad is barely 60 years old.
Yeah.
It's 1 year older than I am. So, Islamabad is today 58 years old as far as it's. That is nothing in the age of cities.
Right.
It is just basically a nascent city. At the same time, the fact that it's considered among all the cities in the world, and you say the second best capital, I think that says something.
Yeah.
What many people do not know, even some professionals, is that Islamabad is the only linear city in the world.
Okay.
This was Doxiadis' idea, the Greek planner. Let me tell you a little bit about that. Ayub Khan Saab wanted to move the capital from Karachi and move it to a different location. So they were looking for places to put that, and they did these studies. They looked for an international planner, and they found Doxiadis and asked him to do these studies. There is a museum in Greece, in Athens, called the Bernanke Museum. 1/3 of the collection on Doxiadis over there is about Islamabad.
Oh, wow.
The studies, 50-something studies done about how we live, how we eat, how we interact, everything about us. He studied all these things before he did the Islamabad
That's so
master
interesting.
plan. And parallel to Islamabad, what happened across the border, and we were a very young country at that time, during Ayub Khan's era, Field Marshal's Ayub Khan's era, and across the border, Nehru wanted to do a city. And so he got a French architect called Le Corbusier, who did Chandigarh across the border, not very far from us. So Islamabad and Chandigarh kind of, this is right across the border, two different visions for their own nations were coming up. At the same time, across the globe, in Brazil, Brasilia was coming up. again a political decision.
Yep.
And down under, Canberra was being developed by Walter Burley Griffin and his wife Marion Mahoney Griffin, who was the first graduate of architecture from MIT.
Wow.
And so these people, these 4 cities are so interrelated, interesting, that they all came up from a political decision. And let me share an anecdote with you. I was with one of my somebody who had worked for me and your good friend. We were after he had picked me up from the airport, and we were going down in Canberra. This is last year.
Yeah.
We were driving down, and he says, "Ye left side pe aap dekhein." And I'm like, yes. And he says, these are the government offices. And I said, this is Lal Quarter in white color. And he looks at me, he says, how could you tell? And I said, of course, it's Lal Quarter, but it's painted white.
Okay.
And he says, this is the low-end housing for government servants. And that is how similar some of the things are.
Yep.
It's uncanny for even a student of city and regional planning beyond architecture, for somebody like me to kind of find those similarities. It's as if Rawal Dam was in the middle of the city.
Yeah.
You know, that is so. I think we are bringing in people from all those 4 places, and we are going to have a very interesting conference discussing this, and I hope that the people who make decisions for Islamabad are going to listen to them and hear what a high esteem people from around the world hold Pakistan and Islamabad in.
Thank you very much for saying
Right,
that.
absolutely. Thank you so much for saying that. And since you spoke about ideas and whatnot, Mr. Abbasi, coming on to you, this was a few months back. We actually did a show on how the new government wants Islamabad to be all about high-rise buildings and whatnot. Are we heading towards that? And is that a good thought for Islamabad?
I think when there's a dialogue, it's always very important. I mean, that's the first time I think in the history of Islamabad, I've seen a dialogue coming along. There's a committee doing something on the master plan. We're talking about the revision of bylaws. I think it is always, because if you see, we have problems as architects in Islamabad specifically, because the buildings that are coming up are mostly like a box.
Exactly.
There's no room for improvement in terms of design, or because there's such strict bylaws that you don't. So the FAR was supposed to be, the floor area ratio was meant to be that you can go high up, but then you maintain that infrastructure around that.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think the dialogue and what the Prime Minister's vision is with the treatment housing and the revising the bylaws is to see how we can develop satellite cities around the main city, which is Islamabad,
Exactly.
and then improve the public transport system, which is unfortunately not there at all. And you
At
see
least
around
in
the world.
Islamabad, you know, we have metro.
Well, metro is catering to very limited.
Exactly.
So I think the idea is that you bring so many people from outside Islamabad, the suburban areas, and you bring them to city to work. So there has to be a proper direction towards
Exactly.
that. So I think the dialogue that was brought in by the Prime Minister was done for the simple reason that it had to cater to the problems of the city as it is expanding.
All right.
So I think that's a huge thing for the first time that's happening.
That does make sense. But actually, you know, it is absolutely so important, like you very rightly mentioned, to plan out a city in terms of, you know, how the people are going to receive it, how it's going to be in the near future. Shahzad, as you mentioned, that metro works absolutely great in Islamabad and Rawalpindi. I happen to know a lot of people that, you know, metro caters to.
I've never ever seen a metro bus empty. I mean, that's
Oh
the
yes,
point.
yes, that, which is great, which is absolutely great. Even I have used it. I mean, everyone needs it. But unfortunately, in Multan is now all about flyovers and metros. And Shahzad, can you believe I can literally count hardly maximum 8 people use metro
Yeah,
over there?
because of
but
the
that is
fact-
it's a mess. No, Shahzad, it's a mess. I mean, you have ruined the city. Rant time. You have ruined the city. I mean, no one is going to use it. Everyone literally has cars over there, and no one uses public transport. And you have just, you know, sort of
I think
spoiled the whole look of it.
Yeah, the only main spot they have for pick and drop, I think, is just that university wala stop. And
I wouldn't know,
and
but
that's
it's
it.
always empty.
But other than that, you know, what I wanted to talk about is of very different nature. And it's because of the fact that I think that when you mentioned about political decisions about cities, what I've seen in the recent years, because I grew up over here in Islamabad all my life, I've lived over here. So till the time there was E11 or D12, I think that everything was going fine and superb. But eventually when CDA cut loose, all of these private investors, and they started developing all of these societies, the infrastructure came down to shambles. And nobody could stop that. And for one of those cities we're talking, which is the second best capital, I think that towards the far apart, you know, where there's this Peshawar Road and beyond that, I think that we've ruined the city ourselves. How do you think that we can actually, or these conferences can actually help get us back in shape? So, because the entire concept is whenever we talk about the Western world, so they have this main hub, which is the center of the city. Then there are people who are living, and then there are suburbs. People go out and they come in daily and they commute because the transport's great. So what are we looking forward to? Because we're not actually developing our infrastructure. We're kind of wrecking it by giving it to the private developer because he or she is more interested in more land to be sold.
Okay.
You can agree to disagree, of course.
What I would say to you on that is I'll take a step back.
Okay.
We talked about high rises. We talked about, it's about visions of cities. Cities all have a certain character. It's important to know when you're trying to treat a city and figure it out and make it better, it's important to understand what it's about.
Okay.
Islamabad is a linear city. If it cannot be treated by doses of medicine for the concentric city,
exactly.
It's just a different animal. It's a different ball of wax completely. We're talking about a linear city that is extremely low density.
Okay.
Islamabad is so low density that it's almost lower density than a suburb. In a typical, typical definition of a suburb, it's a neighborhood-based city along a spine. It's a 2.2 kilometers by 2.2 kilometers neighborhoods, which are F61234, F71234, G61234,
yeah.
and the linear blue area, what we call, is the city center kind of growing.
Or for youngsters of Islamabad, Magla Road probably. Yeah.
So, I mean, you look at that and, on one side is the hills, Margala Hills, the other side is Rawalpindi, the neighboring twin that supported Islamabad in its earlier years. I'll just give you one example. We put an unplanned high-density development, Centaurus, at the corner of one sector.
Yeah.
Do I need to educate you
No.
about what it did to that corner?
Exactly.
In terms of traffic, in terms of everything, they were parked on somebody else's lot. When that person needed their plot, look at what's happening there. Can you find parking there? It's not possible. See, we must plan for things. If we want to do high rises, we must plan for that. Maybe beyond the airport, we need to do a high rise city. Maybe it needs to be, with enough clearance after the airport. Maybe we do as we go westwards, Islamabad grows from east to west. Maybe in the later part of Islamabad, something like that happens across the GT road to the other side. There's just 4 more sectors left until GT road.
Yeah.
And I think that for that, the master plan is already there. The planning is already in place. So I think these are things we need to look at. And as we go along, we need to look at in terms of what is the quality of the city. It's not supposed to be a high-density city.
Okay.
So I mean, there are. If you take the quality of life that people pay for in Islamabad, they have managed to convince people and all Pakistanis that it's worth it to pay higher than Manhattan and Tokyo prices for a 500 square yard plot in Islamabad.
Yeah.
And everybody agrees, nobody is complaining.
Exactly.
So what is the reason for that? We must look at that. There must be some quality that Lahore and Karachi
Even Karachi is expensive. Karachi's DHA is very expensive.
Needs to develop
Exactly.
to that level. But the thing is that we feel that megalopolises, as Doxiadis would have called them, like Karachi and Lahore, kind of start to support no one except they live off of the hinterland and do not give very much in return. Of course, the economy of Pakistan is supported by Karachi, but at the same time, I think Karachi could have been many cities and much more healthier.
Yeah, and thank you very much for saying that, because there were days, ladies and gentlemen, when Karachi actually used to add quite a lot to the economy of the country or to the GDP as well. But I think that Punjab has taken over in terms of figures too as well. So I think that it's about high time that we decide about things. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, when you guys will come back after the break, we actually want to talk about that, there are economic zones all over, across the CPAC route. And I think that that's the place, those are the places where people actually need to develop cities, where people need to develop this culture of people going and coming in, because it's going to be very fruitful. How will that happen? I think that's the question which I'm going to ask Mr. Fawad. But after a short break.
Stay tuned. Good morning. Welcome back to Well This Morning with Shahzad Khan and Shiza Hashmi, ladies and gentlemen, on a sunny day where today we are talking about the architecture of Pakistan, the regions and cities and how that holds the importance, and also this amazing conference happening in Pakistan, which includes more than 15 countries and whatnot from all around the world, where we discuss architectural problems and solutions.
Exactly, that's what it is.
But before we move on with the conversation, today happens to be a very important day. Why so?
It's because of the fact that, ladies and gentlemen, one of the pioneers of, I think, the genre which he picked up is, or probably should be referred to as slightly rock. But I think that they were the first ones to actually form a band over here in Pakistan, or the second ones as well. Today, ladies and gentlemen, happens to be the birthday of the legendary Junaid Jamshed Saab. May his soul rest in peace as well. And I think that throughout his journey of life, he's given quite a lot to people. And he's made sure that people, and today when I see that people are actually following his footpath, I think that I am more in love with that personality as well. So just to remember him, we've got something to share with all of you. Go ahead, take a listen and remember him in your prayers. He's a legend and he'll always be in our hearts. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that wherever he is, he's at a much more better place as well, and we definitely remember him in our prayers too as well. But now coming back to the topic, where before the break we actually said that since CPEC's happening, and there are economic zones, and there's a belt which connects China and Pakistan as well, and I think that it's going to be very useful for all of those people who are traders, businessmen, and whatnot. But then at the same time, what we're missing out over here is that we actually need to develop communities around that path.
Okay.
And that's not happening. Yeah. So, sir, would you mind elaborating upon that too as well? How will that happen?
Actually, when we look at CPEC, it's a very interesting, it's part of the new world.
Okay.
A couple of years ago, we were in Hong Kong, and the chief executive of Hong Kong invited us. We were at the Acacia conference over there to dinner at his house, and so we were talking about various things. I spoke to him about Islamabad, and he said, "I'm building a bridge," and I was like, "Okay." So he said, "I'm building a bridge from here to Macau, and from Macau to, they're going to connect it to mainland China." And I didn't realize the significance of it at that time until I took the ferry the next day, which was 1 hour by the ferry. So today, you can get in a car or a truck in Hong Kong, drive to Macau, drive across to mainland China, drive all the way across to Kashgar, and then from there to Germany or to Spain. And from the other side, then Kashgar being that place where you can drive all the way down and go all the way to the new port of Gwadar. This is China's need. Developing Western China was China's need. Developing this connection is really what is, apart from its need for energy, which is the obvious need, but also, I was in China once and I spoke about this, and within half an hour there were 2 TV stations that came and kind of interviewed me right then and there at that conference saying, "What were you talking about?"
Wow.
And I spoke about Pakistan in there, and I said, well, the path to Pakistan, this CPEC, is what will make China the world power that it aspires to be.
Yep.
The next world, leading the next world, just like the US did, and just like before that Britain did.
Right.
The different ages, different countries kind of led this. And for China, the access to warm waters is what was so important for the Russians to begin with, and the same deal was given to the Chinese in return for the port.
Yep.
And I think this is a mutually beneficial relationship. Pakistan has to find its own needs out of it.
Yeah.
Nobody gives you anything for free. Now let me just kind of go back, and when you start to look at this, in the last 72 years, almost all the development that's taken place in Pakistan has been east of Indus.
Okay.
Good. We were a new country, a nascent country, where we had broken off from was right across the border and stuff. I can understand that. But we are 72 years later. We've had time to think. We've had planners. We've had all these wonderful, intelligent people. West of Indus is where all the goodies, all the future goodies of Pakistan lie underground.
Yep.
Which is the oil, the gas, the gold, the copper. I can go on.
But that can be a strategic reason for not to dig
that's what I
into
was
that,
about
or
to-
probably later on, kind of develop on all of those things. as
Or
well.
never, we never know.
Later on,
62% of the terrorism that emanated here emanated from west of India because there are no resources there.
Exactly.
Right, right.
You got to develop your country for for the people.
Exactly.
Right now, somebody else's need is giving us an opportunity to develop the westmost path, which is the CPAC has these the western path of CPAC. If you look at that, I propose that we need to do industry-based cities on the westernmost alignment, and of different sizes, maybe 20 to 25 new cities and towns of different sizes. And they let them be industry-based cities, industries that will look for an opportunity from this mega logistic effort that is going to pass through Pakistan.
And I think that it's going to be of great opportunity and help for all of those people, and especially I think that if we plan to do so, I think that it's going to decentralize the the population as well, and I think that everybody is going to.
Lahore and Karachi.
Yes.
Because everybody moves from Peshawar to Rawalpindi, Islamabad, to Lahore, to Karachi, and then out to Dubai and Saudi Arabia.
But
so
since you mentioned about all of these cities, I'm sorry that I'm cutting you out as well, but it's because of the fact that we're very short on time. And there's one question which I definitely wanted to ask, and since I've lived in Karachi for 5 years, in Lahore for 2 years, and I know for sure that if it rains for only 5 minutes, Karachi and Lahore, well, Lahore is not that worst, but Karachi becomes a swimming pool. Now, a lot of times we see that the government's being blamed for all of those things which they have done to the city, and it's because of the fact that there's clogging, there's quite a lot of other stuff, there's a lot of garbage on places, and it kind of hinders the way for water to flow too as well. But is there any way that we can reverse engineer the entire city so that it becomes more fruitful for the people who are actually living over there?
why is it not a problem in Islamabad?
Because it's a planned city?
And the other thing, we had the best drainage contractor in the world, the Almighty Allah. We did not mess with the existing waterways. We did not flatten out things and then make new cities. In Islamabad's case, the trouble comes with Rawalpindi. There was a proposal that the Japanese presented, and that was to have some kind of a check dam to hold the water somewhere near F9 Park before we release it to Rawalpindi. So as Nalalai would not get flooded. So I think it's a reverse problem for Islamabad, that what is there for the rest of Pakistan. And for other cities, I think we need to plan them better. In Islamabad, the problems came when we did these the new roads that we developed, and the engineering changed, and in some places there were issues that they resolved later on. But engineering and intelligent engineers can resolve almost anything. You just have to get your mind to it.
So let's see what Fawaz's take is on this one as well.
I think like you said, it's perfectly, the national drain was already available when we were, Dr. Harris was planning the city. And like you said earlier, when the housing schemes came through, these, kind of, the encatchment area got bigger.
Exactly.
But the problems started to flow out. And I think that's one of the reasons why this conference has been planned. The reason we're talking about these mega cities and the city planning itself in a larger scale is because these people who've worked on cities or are still working on these cities are coming along and they're talking about their experiences. And the 5th and 6th September will be all about talking about how the cities are growing. And we bring the experts from that. So I think the Institute of Arts Pakistan got together, and we were able to bring on the Arcasia platform this talk and this dialogue that will hopefully bring will come out with a resolution of what we can do as thinkers, as creative minds, to improve the cities.
Okay, and just a simple question, that is that, since this conference is taking place, and I know that it's going to be of great benefit for all of those architects who are going to be a part of it, but do we have anybody from the government, representing the government, who's actually going to listen to all of those resolutions which you will be coming up with in terms of city planning?
Oh, absolutely. We had invited the Prime Minister, but because of the current condition in the country, he is very busy right now. He's supposed to leave for New York very soon. We are hoping to hear from the President, and hopefully he will come, or I'm sure one or more of the ministers will come. They will be there, and apart from that, whatever takes place in the conference will be put together in the form of a book that we will share with people. For people who are not there, we're going to share that. We want to make this a body of knowledge that comes together. The people that we are bringing together is a critical mass of minds minds on urbanism.
So you'll just have to promise us one thing, that once the conference is done and once the book is out, we would love to have you over our show again.
Inshallah.
And we'll talk about the developments which have been discussed within these conferences as well. So best of luck.
Thank you
very much for being with us. It was lovely to be in conversation with two amazing people who actually love the country to an extent where they actually want to do something to bring about a change.
Right, absolutely. Really hope you learned something from it, because I know I did. Be nice and kind to each other, but do not let anyone walk over you. Write us on our Facebook page with the name of
Well, this morning.
On Twitter.
Well, this morning without a G.
Daily Motion on YouTube.
On YouTube, ladies and gentlemen, the channel's name is PTV World, and then you can look for World This Morning.
And we're on Instagram.
Instagram, World_This Morning.
Catch the repeat at
5 past 11 p.m. tonight. Till the next time, 1, 2, 3.
Good morning.